Ranch girl steps out of hiding and dares to face a warrior alone in a deadly canyon. She tells him to follow her, but what happens after those words will reshape everything they believe about each other. Thank you so much for watching and for all your comments. Let me know at the end if you liked the story and where you're watching from, and why you're following this. The Texas sun blazed mercilessly over the sprawling ranch lands of the Double R, casting long shadows across the dusty plains that stretched endlessly toward the horizon. It was the summer of 1872, and the tension between settlers and the Comanche tribes had reached a breaking point. Sarah Jane Reynolds stood on the wooden porch of her family's ranch house, her emerald green eyes scanning the distance with a mixture of determination and worry etched across her sun-kissed face. 23 years old, she had grown up learning every aspect of ranch life from her father, becoming as skilled with horses and cattle as any man in the territory. Her long auburn hair was tied back in a practical braid, and she wore sturdy work clothes that allowed her freedom of movement. The ranch had been her whole world since childhood, and she knew every hill, every creek, and every hidden canyon within 50 miles. The sound of approaching hoofbeats made Sarah turn sharply. Her father, Robert Reynolds, rode up with 3 of their ranch hands, their faces grim and covered in trail dust. Behind them, tied to one of the horses, was the body of a young ranch hand named Tommy Sullivan, barely 19 years old. Sarah's heart sank as she rushed down the porch steps. "Pa, what happened?" she demanded, her voice steady despite the horror before her. Robert dismounted slowly, his weathered face showing the weight of his 50 years. Comanche raiding party hit the north pasture, took 30 head of cattle and killed Tommy when he tried to stop them. "This has got to end, Sarah. The territorial governor is sending troops, but until then we're on our own." Sarah knelt beside Tommy's body, her jaw clenched. She had known him since he was a boy. His dreams of saving enough money to buy his own land would never come to fruition now. "Did you see which direction they went?" "Northeast toward the canyon country," one of the ranch hands, a grizzled veteran named Buck Morrison, replied. "But Sarah, you ain't thinking what I think you're thinking. That's suicide. Those Comanche know that territory like the back of their hands. We'd be walking into an ambush." Sarah stood up, her eyes flashing with fierce determination. "We can't just let them keep raiding us, Buck. Every week it's more cattle, more property destroyed. If we don't stand up, we'll lose everything my father built." That night, as the ranch hands buried Tommy in the small cemetery behind the ranch house, Sarah made her decision. She had spent years exploring the wild country beyond the ranch, often against her father's wishes. She knew secret trails and hidden passages that even the Comanche might not know. If she could track the raiding party and recover the cattle, it might prevent further bloodshed. More importantly, it might open a dialogue that could lead to peace rather than endless violence. Before dawn the next morning, Sarah saddled her horse, a strong chestnut mare named Copper, and packed supplies for a 3-day journey. She left a note for her father, knowing he would be furious but understanding that she had to try. As the first light of dawn painted the sky in shades of pink and gold, she rode out toward the canyon country, following the trail left by the stolen cattle. The landscape gradually changed as Sarah traveled northeast. The flat grasslands gave way to rolling hills, then to rocky terrain with scattered juniper and mesquite trees. The trail was clear enough. 30 cattle left obvious signs. But Sarah remained vigilant, knowing that Comanche scouts could be anywhere. By midday, she reached the entrance to a vast network of canyons carved by ancient rivers. The red rock walls rose hundreds of feet on either side, creating a maze of passages and dead ends. Sarah dismounted and examined the ground carefully. The cattle tracks continued into the main canyon, but she noticed something else. Fresh horse tracks, unshod, indicating Comanche ponies. Her heart raced as she realized she was closer to the raiding party than she had anticipated. She led Copper forward on foot, moving as quietly as possible, using every bit of cover the canyon provided. As she rounded a bend in the canyon, Sarah froze. There, not 50 yards ahead, stood a Comanche warrior beside his black and white painted pony. He was tall and powerfully built, his long black hair flowing past his shoulders, adorned with eagle feathers that signified his status as a warrior. His face was striking, strong features with high cheekbones and intense dark eyes that seemed to see everything. He wore traditional buckskin leggings and a leather vest decorated with intricate beadwork. Most notably, He carried a rifle in addition to a bow and quiver of arrows. He was examining the canyon wall, seemingly unaware of her presence. Sarah's hand moved instinctively to the rifle secured to Copper's saddle. But something made her hesitate. This warrior appeared to be alone, separated from his group perhaps. If she could somehow communicate with him, maybe she could find a way to resolve this without more death. It was a dangerous gamble, but Sarah had never been one to shy away from risk when she believed in the cause. Taking a deep breath, Sarah stepped out into the open, her hands raised to show she held no weapon. The warrior spun around with lightning speed, his rifle raised and pointed directly at her chest. His eyes widened slightly in surprise at seeing a lone woman, but his expression quickly hardened into one of fierce suspicion. "I come in peace," Sarah said slowly and clearly, though she had no idea if he understood English. "I am Sarah Reynolds from the Double R Ranch. You and your people took our cattle. I want to talk about ending this conflict." The warrior's lips curled into what appeared to be a scoff. He spoke in rapid Comanche, his tone mocking and dismissive. Though Sarah could not understand the words, the meaning was clear. He found her presence amusing and her mission foolish. He gestured with his rifle for her to leave, his body language radiating contempt for what he clearly saw as a naive girl playing at being a peacemaker. Sarah felt anger rising in her chest, but she forced herself to remain calm. "I know you don't think much of me standing here," she said, her voice stronger now. "But I know these canyons. I know a passage that leads to water and shelter that your people might need. The territorial army is coming, and when they arrive, there will be a massacre on both sides. I don't want that. I don't think you want that either." The warrior lowered his rifle slightly, studying her with renewed interest. He spoke again in Comanche, this time his tone less dismissive, more questioning. Sarah took this as encouragement and continued. 3 miles from here, there's a hidden valley. I discovered it 2 years ago. It has fresh water, grazing land, and it's protected from the wind. More importantly, it's unknown to the Army scouts. If your people are trying to survive, that valley could help. But I need something in return. I need the raids to stop. I need safe passage for my family's ranch." The warrior remained silent for a long moment, his dark eyes boring into hers, as if trying to determine whether she was truthful or setting a trap. Finally, he spoke a single word that Sarah somehow understood from his tone and gesture. "Show." Sarah's heart pounded. This was the moment of ultimate risk. "Follow me now," she said firmly, meeting his gaze without flinching. She turned and began walking back to where Copper stood, half expecting to feel an arrow between her shoulder blades at any moment. But the attack never came. When Sarah glanced back, the warrior was mounting his painted pony, his rifle still in hand but no longer aimed at her. His expression was unreadable, a mixture of suspicion and curiosity. Sarah mounted Copper and began riding deeper into the canyon system, taking a narrow side passage that was barely visible, unless you knew where to look. As they traveled, Sarah became acutely aware of the warrior riding behind her. His name, she would later learn, was Swift Arrow, a respected fighter among his people known for his intelligence and strategic thinking. He was 26 years old and had been leading raids against the settlers not out of bloodlust, but out of desperate necessity. His band was small, composed mainly of families who had refused to move to the reservation, determined to maintain their traditional way of life. The raids were their only means of survival, as their hunting grounds disappeared, and settlers claimed more land each year. The passage Sarah led him through wound between towering rock formations, sometimes so narrow that they had to ride single file. The walls glowed orange and red in the afternoon sun, creating an otherworldly beauty that seemed at odds with the tension of their situation. Sarah could feel Swift Arrow's eyes on her back, assessing every move she made. She knew that one wrong turn, one sign of betrayal, and her life would end in an instant. After nearly an hour of riding, the narrow passage suddenly opened into a hidden valley just as Sarah had described. It was roughly half a mile across, surrounded by steep canyon walls that provided natural protection. A clear stream ran through the center, fed by a spring that emerged from the rock face. Grass grew thick along the stream banks, and scattered cottonwood trees provided shade. It was an oasis in the harsh desert landscape, invisible from outside the canyon system. Swift Arrow rode forward, his expression showing genuine surprise. He dismounted and knelt by the stream, cupping water in his hands and tasting it carefully. When he stood, he looked at Sarah with new respect in his eyes. He spoke in Comanche, his tone no longer mocking but serious and contemplative. Sarah dismounted as well, approaching him carefully but with confidence. "This valley could support your people," she said. "The army doesn't know about it. The passage we came through is the only entrance, and it's easily defended. But I need your word. No more raids on the Double R or the surrounding ranches. There has to be another way forward." Swift Arrow studied her face for a long moment, then did something unexpected. He began speaking in broken but understandable English. "You, brave, foolish, but brave. Why you help enemy?" Sarah was taken aback by his use of English but quickly recovered. "Because you're not my enemy. You're a person trying to protect your family and your way of life, just like I'm trying to protect mine. This war benefits no one. We're all losing. Losing lives, losing hope, losing our humanity. There has to be a better path. White soldiers come, kill women, children, take land, kill buffalo. You speak of peace, but your people bring war." Swift Arrow responded, his voice heavy with the pain of countless losses. "I know," Sarah admitted, her voice softening. "I know terrible things have been done. I can't undo the past, but maybe we can change the future. This valley could be a start. A place where your people can live in safety while we work toward a real peace." Swift Arrow turned away, looking across the valley as the late afternoon sun cast long shadows. Sarah could see the internal struggle playing out in his posture. He was a warrior, trained to fight, to never show weakness or trust his enemies. But he was also a leader responsible for the survival of his people. The choice before him was impossible. Continue fighting a war they could not win, or trust a stranger who might be leading him into a trap. The silence stretched between them as Swift Arrow contemplated Sarah's offer. Finally, he turned back to face her, his expression grave but no longer hostile. "I bring my people here. We see if valley good. If trap, you die first," he said bluntly. But there was something in his eyes that suggested he was beginning to believe her sincerity. Sarah nodded, understanding the implicit threat but also recognizing it as a form of acceptance. "How many are in your band?" 23. "Mostly women, children, old ones. Only 7 warriors," Swift Arrow admitted, and Sarah could see the weight of responsibility in his eyes. He was protecting a small, vulnerable group against impossible odds. "Bring them tomorrow at dawn. I'll meet you at the canyon entrance with supplies, blankets, dried food, medicine. Consider it a gesture of good faith," Sarah offered. Swift Arrow's eyes narrowed suspiciously. "Why you do this? What you want from Swift Arrow's people?" "I want peace. I want to stop burying boys like Tommy Sullivan who barely got to live. I want to stop seeing families torn apart by violence. And maybe, just maybe, I want to prove that whites and Comanche can find a way to coexist," Sarah replied, her voice filled with passion and conviction. For the first time, Swift Arrow's stern expression softened slightly. "You speak with brave heart. My people have saying, judge person by actions, not words. Tomorrow, we see your actions." As the sun began to set, painting the canyon walls in brilliant shades of crimson and gold, Sarah and Swift Arrow made their way back through the narrow passage. The journey back was different from the tense ride in. They rode side by side when the passage widened, and Swift Arrow began sharing pieces of his story. His wife had died 2 years earlier from a fever brought by white settlers, leaving him alone. His younger sister, Soaring Eagle, and her 2 children were among those he protected. He spoke of how his people had watched their hunting grounds disappear, how the buffalo herds that had sustained them for generations were being slaughtered by the thousands for sport and hides. Sarah listened intently, her heart aching at the injustice of it all. She shared her own story, how her mother had died when she was 12, leaving her father to raise her alone, how she had learned to be strong, to ride, to shoot, to survive in a harsh land, how the ranch represented everything her parents had dreamed of building, but how hollow that dream felt when it came at the cost of so much suffering. When they reached the point where they would part ways, Swift Arrow looked at her with an expression that was difficult to read. "You different from other whites. You see Swift Arrow as man, not savage. This rare." He paused, then added, I see you as woman of honor, not enemy. This also rare. Sarah felt a strange warmth in her chest at his words. Until tomorrow, then. Dawn at the canyon entrance. Swift Arrow nodded and rode off into the gathering darkness. Sarah watched him go, her mind racing with everything that had transpired. She had taken an enormous risk, one that could cost her life and potentially endanger her father's ranch. But something in her gut told her this was the right path forward. The ride back to the Double R Ranch took most of the night. Sarah arrived just before dawn to find her father waiting on the porch, his face a mixture of fury and relief. Sarah Jane Reynolds, you have lost your mind. Riding off alone into Comanche territory. Do you have any idea what could have happened to you? I know exactly what could have happened, Pa, but it didn't. I found their camp. I spoke with one of their warriors. Pa, they're not monsters. They're desperate people trying to survive. Think I've found a way to end the raids, Sarah explained quickly, dismounting and facing her father. Robert Reynolds's expression shifted from anger to disbelief. You spoke with them? Sarah, these are the same people who killed Tommy just yesterday. And how many Comanche have we killed, Pa? How many of their women and children? This cycle of violence has to end somewhere, and I'm trying to end it, Sarah insisted, her voice strong despite her exhaustion. Her father studied her face for a long moment, seeing the determination there that reminded him so much of her mother. What do you need from me? Sarah's eyes widened in surprise. You're willing to listen? I'm willing to hear you out. Your mother always said that true strength was knowing when to fight and when to seek peace. Tell me your plan, Robert said, his tone still wary but open. Sarah quickly explained everything. The hidden valley, her agreement with Swift Arrow, the supplies she had promised. Her father listened without interrupting, his expression growing more thoughtful as she spoke. When she finished, he was silent for several minutes. This could work or it could get us all killed, he finally said. But I've been ranching in this territory for 25 years and the violence has only gotten worse. Maybe it's time to try something different. I'll help you gather the supplies, but Sarah, you need to understand. If this goes wrong, the other ranchers will blame us. We could lose everything. I know, Pa, but if it goes right, we could save countless lives. Isn't that worth the risk? Sarah asked. Robert nodded slowly. Your mother would be proud of you, terrified but proud. Let's get those supplies ready. Over the next few hours, Sarah and her father, along with Buck Morrison, who had overheard their conversation and grudgingly agreed to help, gathered blankets, dried beef, flour, cornmeal, and basic medical supplies. Buck remained skeptical, muttering about trusting Comanche and how it would likely end in disaster. But he helped, nonetheless. As dawn broke across the Texas plains, Sarah loaded the supplies onto a pack horse and rode back toward the canyon entrance. Her father had wanted to come with her, but she convinced him to stay behind, arguing that too many armed men might spook Swift Arrow and his people. This needed to be a gesture of trust, not a show of force. When Sarah arrived at the designated meeting point, the sun was just beginning to crest the horizon. She waited, her heart pounding with a mixture of anticipation and anxiety. Had Swift Arrow changed his mind? Had he decided it was too risky to trust her? Or worse, was he planning an ambush? Then she saw them emerging from behind a rocky outcropping, Swift Arrow on his painted pony leading a small group of people. Sarah could see women wrapped in blankets, children clinging to their mothers, elderly men and women riding or walking with dignity despite their obvious hardship. The 7 warriors rode at intervals around the group, alert and protective. Swift Arrow rode forward to meet Sarah, his eyes scanning the area for any signs of a trap. When he saw she was alone with only a pack horse loaded with supplies, his expression showed a flicker of surprise and what might have been approval. You came alone, with gifts. This shows trust, Swift Arrow observed, dismounting to inspect the supplies. I gave you my word, Sarah replied simply. Swift Arrow called out in Comanche, and a woman around Sarah's age approached. She had Swift Arrow's strong features and intelligent eyes. My sister, Soaring Eagle. She speaks some English too, Swift Arrow introduced. Soaring Eagle studied Sarah with cautious curiosity. You are the white woman my brother speaks of, the one who offers valley. Yes, I'm Sarah Reynolds. I hope this valley can provide safety for your people. Sarah responded, meeting the other woman's gaze directly. Soaring Eagle's expression remained guarded. We have been betrayed by whites before. Promises made, then broken. Why should we believe you different? It was a fair question, and Sarah appreciated the directness. Because I'm not offering you a government treaty that will be broken the moment it becomes inconvenient. I'm offering you a place to live in peace, hidden from those who would harm you. In return, I ask only that the raids stop. No government involvement, no soldiers, no politicians. Just an agreement between people trying to survive. Soaring Eagle translated for the others, and Sarah could see a murmur of discussion among the group. The elderly especially seemed to be debating intensely. Finally, an old woman with silver hair and a face marked by deep lines of wisdom spoke up in English that was surprisingly clear. I am Grey Willow, elder of this band. I have lived 70 winters. I have seen much war, much death. I have also seen that not all whites are same. Some have honor. My grandson Swift Arrow believes you have honor. We will see if this is true. She paused, her keen eyes studying Sarah closely. But know this, young woman. If you betray us, Swift Arrow will ensure you die slowly. This is our way. Sarah felt a chill run down her spine, but maintained her composure. I understand, and I accept those terms. I will not betray you. Swift Arrow gestured for his people to follow, and Sarah led them through the narrow passage into the hidden valley. The journey took longer with the children and elderly, but eventually they emerged into the protected space. Sarah watched as the Comanche people saw the valley for the first time. The children's eyes widened with wonder at the clear stream. The women moved quickly to the water, while the warriors spread out to assess the defensive positions. Soaring Eagle stood beside Sarah, watching her people explore their new home. This is good place, hidden, protected. You have given us great gift. I hope it brings peace for all of us, Sarah said softly. Over the next several hours, Sarah helped Swift Arrow's people settle into the valley. She showed them where the spring emerged from the rock, explained that fish could be found in the deeper pools of the stream, and pointed out caves in the canyon walls that could provide additional shelter. The women began setting up their camp with practiced efficiency, while the children played near the water, their laughter a sound that Sarah suspected had been rare in recent months. Swift Arrow approached her as the afternoon sun began its descent. You have done much for my people today. Swift Arrow is in your debt. You're not in my debt. We made an agreement and I'm keeping my end of it, Sarah replied, though she felt a strange flutter in her chest at being so close to him. Still, you risk much. Your father, other whites, they might not understand. Might punish you for helping Comanche, Swift Arrow observed, his dark eyes searching her face. My father understands. As for the others, they'll have to accept it. This is the right thing to do, Sarah insisted. Swift Arrow smiled slightly, the first genuine smile she had seen from him. It transformed his face, making him seem younger and less burdened. You have warrior's spirit. In my tribe, women like you honored as wise ones, as leaders. Sarah felt her cheeks flush slightly. In my world, women like me are often called stubborn and reckless. Then your world does not see clearly, Swift Arrow said softly, and there was something in his voice that made Sarah's breath catch. The weeks that followed brought changes that Sarah could never have anticipated. She visited the hidden valley every few days, bringing additional supplies and checking on Swift Arrow's people. Each visit deepened her understanding of Comanche culture and strengthened the fragile peace they had established. The raids on the Double R Ranch and surrounding properties had indeed stopped, and word began to spread among the settlers that something had changed, though no one could quite explain what. Swift Arrow was always there to greet her, and Sarah found herself looking forward to their conversations more than she cared to admit. He taught her Comanche words and phrases, explaining the deep connection his people had to the land. She shared stories of her childhood, her dreams for the future, and her struggles with being a woman in a world that often refused to take her seriously. They would sit by the stream talking for hours, their initial wariness evolving into something that felt remarkably like friendship, and then slowly into something deeper. One afternoon in late summer, as Sarah prepared to leave the valley after delivering fresh vegetables from the ranch garden, Swift Arrow stopped her with a gentle hand on her arm. Sarah, I must speak truth to you. She turned to face him, her heart racing at the serious tone in his voice and the warmth of his touch. "What is it? When I first see you in Canyon, I think you foolish white woman who understand nothing. I scoff at your words, at your offer. I think perhaps trap, perhaps trick," Swift Arrow began, his dark eyes intense as they held hers. "But you prove Swift Arrow wrong. You are brave, honorable, wise. You see my people as human beings, not animals to be hunted. You risk everything for peace." Sarah felt her breath catch. "Swift Arrow, he continued, his voice dropping lower, more intimate. "In my heart, feelings grow. Feelings that warrior should not have for white woman. But heart does not listen to should or should not. My sister Soaring Eagle says I look at you the way man looks at woman he wishes to make his wife. Gray Willow says spirits brought you to us for reason beyond peace treaty." Sarah's mind reeled. She had felt the growing attraction between them but had tried to suppress it, knowing how impossible such a relationship would be. A white ranch owner's daughter and a Comanche warrior. The world would never accept it. Yet standing here now, seeing the vulnerability in Swift Arrow's eyes, feeling her own heart pounding in response, she could not deny what she felt. "I've tried not to feel this way," Sarah admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "I told myself it was just friendship, just mutual respect. But every time I ride back to the ranch, I count the hours until I can see you again. Every time you smile at me, I feel something I've never felt before. Swift Arrow, I don't know how this could possibly work, but I can't deny my feelings anymore." Swift Arrow reached out and gently cupped her face with his hand, his calloused palm surprisingly tender against her cheek. "In Comanche way, when warrior finds woman who makes his spirit sing, he must speak his heart or live with regret. I speak my heart now. I love you, Sarah Reynolds. I know this bring great difficulty, but my heart knows only truth." Tears sprang to Sarah's eyes. "I love you too. God help me, I do." He pulled her into his arms and she melted against his strong chest, feeling safe and cherished in a way she had never experienced. They stood there by the stream as the sun cast golden light across the valley, two people from different worlds finding solace in each other's embrace. Their moment was interrupted by the sound of rapid hoofbeats echoing through the canyon passage. Swift Arrow immediately pushed Sarah behind him, his hand moving to the knife at his belt. One of his warriors, a young man named Redhawk, burst into the valley, his horse lathered with sweat. He spoke rapidly in Comanche, his words urgent and fearful. Swift Arrow's expression darkened with each word. He turned to Sarah, his face grave. "Soldiers coming, 20 men, maybe more. They search for Comanche camp. Someone tell them about this valley." Sarah's blood ran cold. "How? No one knows about this place except—" She stopped, realization dawning. Buck Morrison had been resistant from the start. He must have told someone, perhaps hoping to prove that making peace with the Comanche was foolish. "You must go now," Swift Arrow said urgently, gripping her shoulders. "If soldiers find you here, they think you traitor. They might kill you along with my people." "No," Sarah said firmly, her mind racing. "There's another way. The passage we use is the only entrance, right? We can hold them there, negotiate. My father has connections with the territorial governor. If I can just buy us enough time." "Sarah, this is not your fight," Swift Arrow protested, though his eyes showed he understood her determination. "Yes, it is. These are my people threatening yours. I helped bring your people here, and I'll be damned if I let the army massacre them because some fool couldn't accept peace," Sarah declared fiercely. Soaring Eagle ran up to them, her 2 children clutching her skirts. "Brother, what do we do?" Swift Arrow looked torn between his love for Sarah and his duty to protect his people. Gray Willow approached, moving with surprising speed for her age. "The white woman speaks wisdom. She is bridge between our worlds. Let her try to speak to soldiers, but we prepare to fight if words fail." Swift Arrow nodded reluctantly. "Redhawk, take the women and children to the caves at the far end of valley. Warriors, prepare defensive positions at the passage entrance. Sarah and I will meet the soldiers." The camp erupted into organized chaos as people scrambled to follow Swift Arrow's orders. Sarah and Swift Arrow mounted their horses and rode quickly toward the narrow passage entrance. When they reached it, they could already hear the sounds of the approaching cavalry. Horses snorting, equipment rattling, men's voices calling out orders. Sarah rode out of the passage first, her hands raised to show she was unarmed. "Hold your fire! I'm Sarah Reynolds, daughter of Robert Reynolds of the Double R Ranch." The cavalry column came to a halt, and an officer rode forward. Sarah recognized him, Captain William Harrison, a career military man known for his aggressive campaigns against the tribes. His face showed shock and suspicion when he saw her. "Miss Reynolds, what in God's name are you doing out here? We received intelligence that a Comanche war party was hiding in these canyons. You need to move aside so we can do our duty," Harrison demanded, his hand resting on his pistol. Swift Arrow emerged from the passage, positioning his horse beside Sarah's. The soldiers immediately raised their rifles, but Harrison held up his hand to stop them from firing. "Captain Harrison, please listen to me," Sarah said urgently. "There is no war party here. There are families, women, children, elderly people who want nothing more than to live in peace. They've stopped all raids in this area. I've been working with them to establish a peaceful coexistence." Harrison's face darkened. "You've been collaborating with hostiles? Miss Reynolds, that's treason. You could be tried and hanged for this." "It's not treason to pursue peace, Captain. These people aren't hostile. They're refugees trying to survive. If you attack them, you'll be murdering innocent women and children," Sarah argued, her voice strong despite her fear. "They're Comanche. They're all hostiles by definition," Harrison retorted. "Now move aside, or I'll have my men remove you by force." Swift Arrow spoke up, his English clear and dignified. "I am Swift Arrow, leader of these people. We have 23 souls in this valley, only 7 warriors. Rest our families. We take no more cattle, hurt no more settlers. We want only to live in peace. Is this wrong in white man's law?" Harrison sneered. "Your people should be on the reservation where you belong. You have no right to be on settler land." "This canyon is not on settler land," Sarah interjected quickly. "I've checked the territorial maps with my father. This area is unclaimed territory, too remote and difficult to access for ranching or farming. They're not taking anyone's property." "That's a technicality and you know it," Harrison snapped. "My orders are to clear this area of hostile Indians." Sarah's mind raced desperately. Then she remembered something her father had mentioned weeks ago. "Captain Harrison, isn't your commanding officer Colonel James Mitchell?" Harrison looked surprised. "Yes, what of it?" "Colonel Mitchell served with my uncle in the Mexican War. They saved each other's lives at Chapultepec. My father has a letter from the colonel promising to honor any reasonable request our family might make. I'm making that request now. Give us 2 weeks. Let me arrange a proper meeting with the territorial governor and Colonel Mitchell. If we can't establish a legitimate peace agreement in that time, then you can do what you came here to do. But give peace a chance first." Harrison looked uncertain, clearly torn between his orders and the potential political complications of ignoring a request backed by his commanding officer. 2 weeks? And if they raid in that time? "If anyone from this band commits any act of violence against settlers, I will personally lead you back here," Sarah promised. "Swift Arrow, will you give your word as a warrior that your people will commit no hostile acts during this time?" Swift Arrow met her eyes, understanding what she was risking for him and his people. "I give my word as warrior and leader. My people will live in peace. If any break this vow, I myself will answer for it." Harrison studied them both for a long moment. Finally, he nodded curtly. 2 weeks, Miss Reynolds, but I'm posting guards at this canyon entrance. If any Comanche tries to leave, we'll consider the agreement broken. And you better pray the governor sees this your way, because if he doesn't, there's nothing that will stop what comes next." "Understood, Captain. Thank you for your restraint," Sarah said, relief flooding through her. As the cavalry withdrew to set up their camp, Swift Arrow turned to Sarah with wonder and gratitude shining in his eyes. "You save my people again. You risk your life, Your Honor. Everything. I couldn't let them kill you," Sarah said simply. "Now we have 2 weeks to make this work permanently." The next 13 days were a whirlwind of activity. Sarah rode to the territorial capital, used her father's connections to secure a meeting with Governor Andrew Thompson and Colonel Mitchell. She presented her case with passion and precision, arguing that the small band posed no threat, and that establishing peaceful relations with them could serve as a model for dealing with other resistant tribes. She brought Swift Arrow to meet with the officials, and his dignified bearing and articulate defense of his people's right to exist made a powerful impression. Robert Reynolds testified about the cessation of raids and the economic benefits of peace. He even convinced several other ranchers to support the proposal, arguing that a peaceful resolution would protect their properties better than endless military campaigns. The governor was initially skeptical, but Colonel Mitchell, remembering his debt to Sarah's uncle and impressed by the unusual alliance before him, added his support. After days of negotiations, debates, and political maneuvering, an agreement was reached. Swift Arrow's band would be allowed to remain in the Hidden Valley, recognized as peaceful non-combatants who had voluntarily withdrawn from conflict. In exchange, they agreed to report any hostile tribe activity in the area and to accept periodic inspections to verify their peaceful status. On the 14th day, Sarah and Swift Arrow rode back to the valley together to share the news. The cavalry guards had been withdrawn, replaced by a simple agreement that Swift Arrow would meet monthly with local officials to maintain communication. When they told Grey Willow and the others, there were tears of relief and joy. Children laughed and played without fear for the first time in their lives. Soaring Eagle embraced Sarah, calling her sister. As the celebration continued around them, Swift Arrow led Sarah away from the camp to a quiet spot beside the stream where they had first confessed their feelings. The setting sun painted the canyon walls in brilliant colors, and the sound of flowing water created a peaceful backdrop. Sarah, you have given my people future. You have given me hope I thought lost forever, Swift Arrow said, taking both her hands in his. I know our love brings complications. White world may not accept Comanche husband for rancher's daughter. Comanche world may struggle with warrior who loves white woman. But I do not care what others think. I care only what my heart knows, that you are my true match, my equal in courage and spirit. Sarah felt tears streaming down her face, but they were tears of joy. I love you, Swift Arrow. I don't care about the obstacles. We've already overcome impossible odds just to get here. Whatever comes next, we'll face it together. Swift Arrow reached into a pouch at his belt and pulled out a delicate necklace made of turquoise and silver, clearly crafted with great skill and care. In Comanche tradition, when warrior wishes to marry, he offers gift to show his commitment. I made this for you, hoping you would accept. Will you be my wife, Sarah Reynolds? Yes, Sarah breathed, her heart soaring. Yes, 1,000 times yes. He fastened the necklace around her throat, then pulled her into a tender kiss that seemed to seal their souls together. When they finally parted, both were smiling through tears. Over the next months, Sarah and Swift Arrow were married in a ceremony that blended both Comanche and settler traditions, officiated by a progressive minister who believed in the power of love to bridge divides. Robert Reynolds, after initial reservations, gave his blessing, recognizing that his daughter had found someone who matched her strength and conviction. The wedding was small but meaningful, attended by Swift Arrow's people, Sarah's father and trusted ranch hands, and a few open-minded settlers who had come to respect the unusual alliance. Sarah divided her time between the ranch and the valley, serving as a liaison between the two communities. She taught Comanche children to read and write English, while learning more about traditional medicine and crafts from the women. Swift Arrow helped the ranch with difficult tasks, and several of his warriors occasionally worked as guides for settlers who needed to navigate the treacherous canyon country. The peace held. Other Comanche bands, hearing of the arrangement, began to seek similar accommodations. While the broader conflicts continued elsewhere in the territory, this small corner of Texas became known as a place where different peoples had found a way to coexist with mutual respect and dignity. 3 years later, Sarah stood in the valley holding her infant daughter, a beautiful child with her mother's green eyes and her father's dark hair. Swift Arrow wrapped his arms around both of them, his face showing the profound contentment of a man who had found his purpose and his love. You remember the day you told me to follow you? Swift Arrow asked softly. I scoffed. I thought you foolish, but you were wisest person I ever met. You knew path I could not see. Sarah leaned back against his chest, watching their daughter grasp at the turquoise necklace she still wore every day. We found the path together, and look what we've built. A family, a community, a future neither of us could have imagined. Soaring Eagle approached with her children, now joined by Grey Willow, who moved slower but remained sharp as ever. Sister Sarah, the evening meal is ready. Will you both join us? Of course, Sarah replied warmly, taking Swift Arrow's hand as they walked toward the camp where smoke rose from cooking fires, and the sound of laughter filled the air. As the sun set over the hidden valley, painting the sky in shades of purple and gold, Sarah reflected on the journey that had brought her here. She had risked everything for peace, for love, for the belief that people from different worlds could find common ground. The road had been difficult, filled with obstacles and opposition, but standing here now with her husband's arms around her, their daughter in her embrace, and two communities learning to live in harmony, she knew every risk had been worth it. The scoffing warrior and the determined ranch girl had found something neither expected, a love strong enough to bridge cultures, to challenge prejudices, and to build a future where their children would grow up knowing that peace was possible when people chose understanding over fear. In a land often defined by conflict, they had created